Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to be taking a look at ranges inside of Python and how they're linked to conditionals. Ranges are one of those things that you have to be kind of careful with because a lot of people run into situations where a range makes sense in their head until they go to try it. You get these things called fence post errors, which you're going to see quite a bit of, especially when we get into loops. So let's go ahead and start by creating a couple different variables here. I'm going to create, we'll keep one, num1 is going to be, of course, num2, we'll do 32 here, and let's say num3, we'll do maybe 0. What's an ugly number here? There we go. Looks pretty good. Ooh, let's be evil. Ha. Nice. Evil number. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take a look at these numbers and break some conditionals down to see sort of what they do and what they don't do. So what the first thing I want to do is determine whether or not these numbers are between a certain range. So I'm going to go ahead and start that off by saying if num1 is greater than 0. So I'm going to say print, let's see, I'm going to check if number 1 is greater than 0. Then I'm going to see if num1 is less than 100. Print, let's see here, we'll be old school here. We'll do an f string, num1, in case we want to change it, is greater than 0 and less than 100. Now, that's pretty straightforward. If I were to run this code real fast here, you will see here this makes perfect sense. 64 is indeed greater than 0 and less than 100. If I make this 640 and run it again, you will notice nothing happens. Else I'll print. I'll get old school here. I'll say num1 is out of the range. Pretty cool. Let's go ahead and run that code. Nice. You can see that that did. Trying to see where. What? Logic error, because if the number is greater than 0, then it won't print that message. I fixed that with a tab. Yeah, 640 is out of the range. That makes perfect sense. And of course, if I did -1 and went ahead and ran that again, it's not going to do anything. I'd have to come down here. Else, we'd have to do something like print less than 0 or something like that. Now, if I ran it, it's going to be smart enough to know it. Now, if you take a look at this, your brain's going, this hurts. Why would you do something like this? This is ugly. It's got some ifs and elses, and oh my gosh, it's just, golly gee whiz, it is just all over the place. There's got to be a safer way to do all this. And the answer is there is a safer way to do this. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to hashtag this whole section out. This is just so ugly, I can't look at it. I'm just going to kind of ban it to like the bottom of the screen kind of a thing here. And let's rewrite that in a different way. I'm simply going to type in if num1 is greater than 0 and num1 is less than 100. That's much better. So now I can go ahead and grab my little logical statement here, pop that sucker in there. I don't really need the hashtag anymore. And we'll grab this one real quickly here. Go ahead and do one of these things. Again, we can unhashtag that sucker. And we do one of these. Wham. Look at that. Much, much cleaner. We're simply saying if number 1 is going to be greater than 0 and number 1 is less than 100. So if I run this, it should say I'm out of range, which makes sense because num1 is now a value of -1. If I go ahead and do 64 here and I run this one again, you will see it actually checks out perfectly. It's greater than 0 and less than 100. That makes great sense. Now, your brain is sitting here going, this will get a little irritating. And actually, one of the most common things students do is they do this. That doesn't work. We can't do that because we're not making a complete comparison here. You have to be careful. Another one that I'll see people do is that one. Just you have to ask 2 questions if you're going to do an and here. Again, parentheses are your friend. So this is pretty cool. I like this. But wouldn't it be really nice if we had some sort of way of doing a shorthand version of this? And the answer is there is a shorthand version of it in Python. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to type in if 0 less than num1 less than 100. Now I'm going to be lazy here. Again, lazy programmers. Bam. And now let's see if that works. Now, if I run my code, you will notice here that this shorthand is identical to this shorthand up here. As a matter of fact, I would be surprised if it's recommending that I refactor it to use this version of the shorthand. Now, you're sitting here going, okay, that's actually a really good way to check that range. Now, one of the mistakes people make here is, again, you can see kind of a quick and easy way to do that, is they forget that less than is not equal to. So, for example, if I came up here and made num1 100, if I were to execute this, one of the things you'll notice here is 100 is out of range. The reason it's out of range is because it is not less than itself. Now, you're sitting here saying, hey, I could fix that. I'm just going to come rolling in here and I'll put an equal sign there and there. Ha-ha, now you're in range once again. Kind of. I'd have to go back and change my verbiage there because mentally that does not make sense to me. Now you can see here, if I go back to my less than, we're back out of range. That checks. Now you're sitting here going, all All right, I kind of see what you're doing with these ranges. This isn't too bad. But you have two other variables there. I feel like you've got something up your sleeve. Indeed. Now, would it be cool if we could determine if a value was between certain values? Ah, we did that already. What if the values are unknown? Aha, let's do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build myself another if statement here. But what I'm going to do differently this time is I'm going to put my numbers inside of it. If num3 less than num1 less than num3, 2 I mean, sorry. Let's go ahead and grab my prints there, and let's go ahead and have a little bit of fun. Num1 is greater than, haha, num3. Look at how clever we are here. It's like we knew this was coming or something like that. Num2. And of course, let's go ahead and grab these real quickly here as out of the range of boop. And let's go to an and. Look at how clean that is. Isn't that nice? Let's go ahead and run that code here. And you can see here, it will say 100 is out of the range of 0.628 and 32. No joke. So if I came down here and made this 25, for example, and ran the same code again, you will observe that it is greater than less than 32. Isn't that really, really handy? Now, of course, you're sitting here saying, okay, I'm starting to get the hang of this. This isn't too bad. I like where you're going with this. I get the cut of your jib. Got a lot of moxie. What are we supposed to do if, like, these are flipped? Oh. What if I did -1 and 500? Oh, -500 would definitely break it. Let's run that. You will notice that this thing has no idea what to do here. It just will not work, which is why when you're setting up situations like this, you have to always be very cognizant of what you're trying to achieve with it before you go ahead and start doing it, especially because we have variables that don't have a lot of very clear names here. And you can see we basically gave this thing a heart attack in the process of not doing it in the order that makes actual sense here. Now, one thing I mentioned a few minutes ago was the concept of fence post errors, which is when you try to get to a value, but you never actually get to the value. And that's usually linked to having a less than versus a less than or equal to. Definitely something that you always want to be kind of mindful of when you're actually working with different ranges of different kinds of numbers here. So for example, if I wanted to change this statement to something like this would now give me the ability to go ahead and determine if it is equal or it's inside of that range. So if I wanted to be goofy and come in here and make num132, if I were to run it this time, you will notice it's going to go ahead and give me my message here. We have to say equal to, we should be technically or less than or equal to. Let's, just for clarity, let's go ahead and run that again. There we go. 32 is greater than or equal to, yes. And is less than or equal to itself, yes, because it is equal to itself. Check. So now you're sitting here going, all right, I get the ranges. I get the ranges. I get the feeling you're going to confuse us in a second. I'm like, oh, please, if I haven't confused you yet, I'm not doing my job. So let's go ahead and create a situation where things get tricky. Let's create an age. We'll set the age to, I'll pick on my age real quickly here in case anybody was curious. I'm going to go ahead and create myself a nice complicated statement about movie prices here. We'll do if movie ticket, if age is less than 10, kid rate, less than 40, greater than 10, greater than or equal to 10, and less than or equal to, just kind of working it out real quick, 64 adult rates, and greater than 64 senior rates, pensioner, I guess, senior rate. Cool. So let's see if we can build this. So if age is less than 10, print, what do we say, kid rate. Nice. Elif, we're going to do this. Age, here we go. Oh boy, how are you going to work this one? See how this gets a little more challenging? 10, less than or equal. 64, less than or equal. Oops. Less than or equal. Age, less than or equal. 64. Print, standard rate. I'll call it standard rate here. This looks pretty good to me. And we'll go ahead and sneak in the end here. And whoa, hey, make careful what button you push on your keyboard. And of course, we'll throw on an else because mathematically speaking, everything's above 65. So we'll break it in a second. You'll see why you have to be clever programmers. Print senior rate. I like that. Let's go try it. So if I run my code here, what you will notice is I get the standard rate. Sigh, I get nothing special. So let's go ahead and say I'm 9 years old. If I run this one again, you'll see I get the kid rate. It works perfectly. But what if I'm 10? Haha, standard rate. Now, of course, if I say I'm 64, standard rate. And if I go to 65, run it again, you'll see I get the senior rate. Now, let's cause a problem. Now, I don't know how you could be -1. This is what my dad would say, that I'm a twinkle in his eye kind of a thing like that. But you can see -1 gets us a kid rate. So we actually need to put a test in here to make sure the values make more sense. So let's make this a little bit more robust here. So I'll go back to 39 here. Why not? So how would we do that? Well, that's pretty straightforward. I'm going to say if 0 less than age less than, what do we got, 120 now? We'll call it 150. Print error. Are you sure? Are you sure you are entering the age correctly? We'll do some software development stuff here. Nice. Now I can start my elifs here. Now your brain is probably sitting here going, are you allowed to do that? You're absolutely allowed to do that. Now if I were to run my code one more time here, you will notice I get error. Are you sure you're entering the age correctly? Because my age is inside of this range. Ah, see where the problem starts? So what you're sitting here going, oh, that's easy then. So we just have to flip the signs around. You know, if I could say that my signs are like, if I want to do something like this, and then I'm gonna come over here and do one of those kind of things. So you run it again, and you'll notice it gives me the standard rate. So if I come down here and I say 9, if I run the code again, you'll see it gives me the kid rate. If I do -5 and run this code again, you will notice it still gives me the kid rate because this isn't a valid statement. And that's one of the classic problems everybody has when they start doing these. One of the things I like to do for my own sanity here is when I'm running them is I just like to be careful as far as the way I initially set this up. So what I'll actually do here is I'll go back up to 5. It should say, error, are you entering the cage? And all I'm going to do is write not in the front of it. Now, the reason I like the not command is it makes sense. If you're not in the desired range, then print the error, then start doing your elif stuff. So if I run it, you'll notice it gives me the kid rate. If I do a -5 here and run this one again, you will notice error, are you sure you're entering the age correctly? So that's actually some pretty good software development here, and it makes it much easier than trying to fiddle with these and try to get this correct. Now, some of you, of course, are saying here, is there another way you could do this? Sure, you could do if age is less than 0, or age is greater than 150. You could definitely have done this as that opening statement as well. You simply have to pick the one that makes the most sense for you. Again, some people like to assign the range, then get out of it. Some people like to write the range reverse. And of course, the other solution is to do it with a nice little compound conditional here. One of the things you don't want to accidentally is you don't want to do this because mathematically you can't do that. Even with negative and positive infinity, it ain't going to work. So you just want to be kind of mindful. So as you can see, ranges are something that is definitely going to be a trap for many of you. You have to be very careful and carefully think things out and test as you go so you're absolutely sure that everything makes sense when you're actually running your code itself. And again, as you probably also notice, there's a lot of different ways to write the same thing. And generally, you want to be consistent so that you avoid any sort of issues if you decide to change things mid-time. Enjoy.